Welcome, welcome. It is me, Jessica Lauren Kelley, voice of reason, and you're listening to my podcast, Blogcast. What's up? All right, so let's get into this because you're probably like, yo, what the heck happened last week with that episode, right? You guys, if only I could tell you. I'm going to tell you, if only. Get ready. So, two things happened last week. I actually record for the show. Now, I premiere them on Wednesdays at 4, but I have a recording schedule. So, usually I record on Saturdays. So, it all started last week, Saturday. I wake up to record. I come down here and I broke my headphones, right? So, no big deal. I'm thinking I'm recording the show and I'm saying like, yeah, I probably have no idea how I'll sound because I can't hear any feedback in my headphones. They're not working and I have to record this before I go to Target because, I won't come back from Target in time to record this. I'm going to do it now. So I go through and I talk to you guys. I had some pretty good topics last week and guess the fuck what? The microphone was on mute, bro. So I go back on, was it Sunday, to just play back what I've recorded. And it's 19 minutes and 54 seconds of, I'm sure, what was good content, but you can't hear anything because at the time, I didn't realize that my microphone was on mute. WTF. So then I tell myself, you know what? It's okay. You'll just record it again. Come Tuesday, right? And I ended up not recording just because I ended up having a really rough mental health week. So it was pretty much downhill from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and definitely Wednesday and Thursday. So my schedule got all trippy and I do apologize for missing my deadline with you guys, but mental health comes first and I had to be really honest with myself. Maybe it's a good thing, my message just was not meant to come out. My microphone was muted for 19 minutes and 54 seconds. Then right after that, I had, mental health. So we talked about in my last couple podcasts how I was dealing with a lot of mental health illness like depression, anxiety, all of these things, right? Well, as we know, depression and anxiety just doesn't go away overnight and that it comes and goes in spells, it comes when it wants, it goes when it wants. It's kind of has its own thing. Yeah, it's monitored very well, which is why I am able to, I just know what I need. So a part of this message this week is taking care of yourself first. And how does that roll over or how does that work out in voice acting? Really, you have to know yourself first. And I think I've spent a lot of time in places that make me unhappy and I know what I'm like in those environments. So again, creating a space for myself where I am my own boss, where I have my own freedom. Like I really don't like talking to people too much. Voice acting is perfect because you're behind the screen, you're behind the microphone, which is one of my favorite things because I can be my weird little trippy self on this microphone and not have to be in front of people. So that makes me feel great. But knowing yourself, right? So hold on, I'm getting some water. And yes, you're going to hear me sip water, of course. Okay, but it's really about knowing yourself and knowing your limits. Like last week, I just couldn't do it. I was a little disappointed because I was like, God dang, I had this really cool message that I wanted to get out, but it just was not meant to come out. So I respect that. I respect what universe wants. So there was no message last week. And moving forward, I feel way better. I feel like I'm back to myself. But again, depression comes and it goes, and we just deal with it and work around it. So I apologize. We're back this week, and now we're going to talk about depression and anxiety and how to keep deadlines, working through all of that and still wanting to pursue your dreams. Well, it's nothing you can do. I mean, if you are diagnosed with depression or anxiety or any mental health illness, you just gotta, it's a part of who you are. And it's not a bad thing. There shouldn't be a negative stigma associated with it. But sometimes it is, because people feel like, oh my God, how can you be depressed? You're always depressed. And it's like, bro, if I could just turn the shit off, best believe I would, you know? So yeah, those are some things you got to take on the chin. A lot of people have very little understanding of mental health issues, and that's okay. Not everybody is meant to understand. You could encourage them to do more research or watch what they say, but we know people probably won't do that. You know, people have their own reservations about it. So that's why it's really important for you to be an advocate for yourself. Having mental illness is one thing, but being an advocate for yourself and just knowing your limits, okay? Or just knowing that you gotta let some stuff go. Like if it's a bad mental health day, it just is what it is. Now, obviously, if you're on deadline and you already made an arrangement to record or have your lines in, of course you honor those, or you do your very best. And let's say you cannot honor those, then it is your job to be honest with the person you're working with and saying, hey, you know, I'm unable to complete my lines. You know, just communicate your mental health needs. That is what an advocate, that's what it's about, being an advocate for yourself. Being able to communicate, hey, I'm having a rough time. I'm not going to be able to do this deadline, or I'm unable to complete. And I mean, it's a frustrating process, but you have to know yourself. You know, like sometimes my depression spells last days, right? Which is why I usually have this schedule where I record everything when I'm in a good mood. Like if I have lines, I do my best to record them when I'm feeling good as hell, you know, like when I'm back to myself. I try to get them up and out the way, just because I know that sometimes 2 days later it can be a complete 180 and I'm down and I don't feel well and I don't feel like getting out of bed and I don't feel like talking, and it's that much harder for me to complete deadlines. So having an understanding of yourself, kind of knowing yourself. And most of the time, like, I'm usually pretty happy 80% of the time. But there are days where I'm just like, okay, we're feeling sad today and we gotta let it out. You know, respecting your feelings and not suppressing them, or, you know, I used to try to, you know, speed it up. If I'm having a bad day, I would try like to speed through the process and not feel. And what I've learned is that really doesn't help. It's the most counterproductive thing, because you have to let your mind, your body, you have to feel what you are feeling. And I used to be like, oh man, I don't want to be sad. Fuck being sad. I'm about to go do something else. And I mean, if that's your approach, it works for a while, but what you have to understand is that you don't really deal with the issue. You kind of just hop on to the next thing. And yeah, you might not be thinking about being sad in that moment, but it still may show up in other ways. So now I just let myself be sad. Like I just am. And I'm really good about telling people like, hey, I'm having one of those days. So if you could just please leave me by myself, or, you know, I say what I need. And that's the best thing that you can do. You know, you have to know yourself. You have to know your limits. You know, you have to have a good understanding of yourself, period. And then being a voice actor and being on deadline and things like that, it helps when you know yourself really well, because then you know exactly how to communicate with you know, others. It could be the writer of the show you're doing, it could be the producer or the talent agent or whatever. You know exactly what you need. So right now you're hearing my nephew bop around the house upstairs, and I may or may not edit. I really don't like to edit these blogcasts because I feel like they're my free talk. So we're just gonna take that on in. That's my nephew. He does not know how to be quiet, but I love him anyway with his noisy self. So yeah, just taking that, knowing who you are, and being like having that in your toolkit, because as a professional, as you work your way up, you want to be able to communicate your needs and everything, and being upfront. And sometimes we don't always have good days, and that's just how it is. You don't always have the greatest week. Sometimes we have really stressful weeks. Stress is hard. So I don't even know what caused my week. You know, that's the thing. Depression is just what it is. You really don't know what causes it. And you can have like a lot of good shit going on in your life, and depression will just come in and be like, yeah, but now it's time to be sad. And you're just like, yep, I'm sad. And that's how it works. So I think I was more so just, again, we're on my journey together. I am completely freelance at this point, meaning I left my job of, you know, the typical 9 to 5, paycheck every 2 weeks. That is something I no longer do. And that was a very big decision. So on one hand, I feel great, you know, I feel liberated. I feel as though I have all the time in the world to connect with my passion, which is voice acting. And I got time to audition for all of these things, and I have all this time, right? But then on the other hand, you kind of, you, and I say you as in me, I kind of miss that just, you know what you got every 2 weeks and you knew what to expect. Booking auditions takes time, and, you know, the more auditions I book, the easier this will get. But especially starting out, you know, you're kind of just waiting on pins and needles, and I apply to everything, but it's not the same. So that is a bit stressful, just because the last, 5 or 6 years of my life was I knew what to expect, you know, go to work, get a paycheck, you know, every 2 weeks. I got my little vacation time. Maybe I travel here, maybe I'll travel there, but to come out, I mean, it is a difference. I'm not going to sit here and act like, you know, everything is grandy dandy, because it does get stressful when you're looking as far as income right now, you know. So I'm very optimistic. I'm drinking more water this morning. I woke right up and came down the basement to record. I have not had breakfast or anything, so I'm drinking a little bit too much water, because I probably should be eating breakfast. But here we are. All right. I lost my train of thought. Oh, it's definitely a difference, because, you know, your 9 to 5 keeps you in. You know what to expect. When you are completely freelance, yes, you can take bigger projects that pay more, but also understand that there are a lot of people applying for those same projects, probably for the same reason. So it takes a while to build a clientele. It takes a while to build, you know, to land a few auditions. And I think really the hardest, my sister says the hardest one is landing the first one. This isn't necessarily my first audition. I actually got a position on RLX radio for 32 episodes of an audio drama, but then coronavirus happened and everything got paused, and the project right now is paused. So that was something I was really, really excited about. I was ready, and universe said, actually, we're going to pause this. So that project is still on hold, which means now I have more time, more auditions to book to make up for that one that I'm still interested in. It's just on hold. But until then, I'm out here still applying, still auditioning, and there's really nothing you can do. It can be quite tedious because the waiting, and who likes to wait? Absolutely no one. So the waiting and the back and forth is definitely a pull on your mental health, right? It can be. It certainly was for me. So I think having last week in combination of like really knowing that the project that I was assigned to was on hold. That was disappointing. And then knowing that, you know, I'm applying for other ones and I haven't heard back. So that was disappointing. And then just the whole idea of waiting, it caused me to go into this mindset of like, are you sure this is what you want to do? It's just that, excuse me, it's that thought of when you leave the typical 9-to-5 atmosphere, right? And you have this in your head, you know, and you're stepping away from that and you're walking into being your own boss, having your own schedule, whatever. It's that difference in mindsets. And although I love being my own boss and I'm leaning more into that and having control in my freedom, I can't lie to you and say that's the easy mindset to have 100% of the time. It is absolutely not true. And I do have moments where I'm just like, okay, are you sure? Like, you know, so that's the beauty in this podcast. That's the beauty in this journey, because you do get, you know, you do have those moments where you're just like, yo, am I sure I want this? And I think those are the moments where I'm supposed to be like, oh, you know what? No, I'm going to head back into work and I'm going to get back on my 9-to-5 schedule. And I think there are two, like I'm pulled in parts, but the other side of being your own boss and having this amazing freedom and just exposure is what I want. And I have to tell that, you know, that self has to tell that little part of myself that's still kind of nervous. And the thing is, we all are nervous. So it's like that part of myself that wants this voice acting career. And it's like, well, duh, it's okay that you're nervous because you've literally never done anything like this. So that's to be expected. Two, this is what you want. This is part of the game. You cannot expect to be immune from not getting auditions and not building a clientele just because you really want this. That may be true, but you have to deal with all the other parts. So I think last week I was just having, I guess maybe a reality check, having a reality check like, okay, this is what it means. Like, this is that you're in it now, you know. I listen to a lot of other voice actors, Blogcast or whatever, and they all talk about this point where you're not getting callbacks and you're nervous. And I think we all reach this point here and there. So it's like, well, duh, Jessica, it's just your turn. Like, this is welcome to voice acting. So again, I knew it was part of the game, but now I'm in it. So again, we talked about this journey that I'm on, that you all are listening to with me, and like now I'm in it. You know, this is what it's like to book auditions and wait to hear back. This is what it's like to have projects be pulled from under you or paused. This is what it's like, you know. So I'm okay now. I think last week I just had a really rough time getting it all together. And I just needed that breakaway to remind myself why I do what I do and why I want this. So it was a necessary break. It was needed, but I'm back on, you know. I've never left. I still want to be a voice actress. I am a voice actress. I have done some work. And this is what I want. This is definitely what I want. I just had a mental health break where I thought those things didn't apply to me, you know, like I just thought I was going to come in here and nail every audition and have, you know, so many projects a month. And what I have to keep in mind is that is the goal. That is the goal. Yes, I want to work on 2 or 3 projects a month, and I want to keep my vocals up, and I want to stay consistent, and that is the goal. But I have to keep in mind that I am doing it right now, even with no auditions. You know, this energy, this mindset is what we're shaping. This is what I am crafting. The fact that I do this podcast every week, so I'm learning again to practice using my voice, playing with my microphone, using different frequencies on this microphone. So I'm not sure if you noticed, but maybe every episode sounds a little different because I'm trying to find which frequency I like the best. So still exploring and still having fun. Like I needed this podcast this week. I really needed to talk to you guys. I missed you all last week. And it feels good to be back. And I hope that by sharing my story with what I struggle with and how I go about it, that it inspires you to keep going. I'm not the only person that suffers from anxiety and depression. And I certainly won't be the last. And we know that having depression, anxiety can really impact your work, period. Whether you work at freelance or if you work in the office 9 to 5, it really does impact your work. Not on purpose, but and I'm learning how to handle it. I'm really learning how to handle it. I'm proud of how I'm handling it. And I'm excited because I got back on here and I recorded today, And last week I was in my head, I was like, oh my God, I probably lost all my subscribers because I didn't post last week. And I said that I would post every Wednesday at 4:00. And now I didn't post and blah, blah, blah. And I just think I put a lot of pressure on myself. I get in my head and I tell myself things that are not even true. And so I know that I'm not the only one that does it. So I'm hoping that by you hearing me coach myself and talk myself down and ground myself, I hope that helps you. Again, so for the end of this show, I am going to throw in my Woolite audition. I never got a chance to submit it because of that mental health week that I had. So I didn't submit it. And that's okay. I'm just going to throw it and attach it in here. This is what Woolite would have gotten if I submitted my work. Thanks to mental health, I didn't submit it. And I'm okay with that because guess what? I'm going to post it here. Whoop, whoop. All right. Thank you for listening. I hope this was somewhat informational, somewhat helpful, somewhat inspirational to you. Thank you for listening. And you have just listened to Jessica Lauren Kelley, Voice of Reason podcast. Thanks. Goodbye. Hello. My name is Jessica Lauren Kelley, and I am auditioning for the Woolite commercial. I have 3 takes for you. Take 1. Woolite All Darks help prevent fading even after 30 washes. Woolite is designed to care for your clothes so you can love them longer. Woolite All Clothes keeps clothes looking like new and won't cause them to shrink, fade, or stretch. Take 2. Woolite All Darks help prevent fading even after 30 washes. Woolite is designed to care for your clothes so you can love them longer. Woolite All Clothes keeps clothes looking like new and won't cause them to shrink, fade, or stretch. Take 3. Woolite All Darks help prevent fading even after 30 washes. Woolite is designed to care for your clothes so you can love them longer. Woolite All Clothes keeps clothes looking like new and won't cause them to shrink, fade, or stretch.